Good day. This is your assignment and exam-based presentation for 2020. CEC Early Childhood Preparatory Mathematics EPM 12. Let's start off with measurement, the experience and activities. The activities that we can do in the class with our learners. As we already know, these are very small learners, so most of our activities should be very practical. When we start off with conservation. Now, conservation of measurement is based on the notation that the length of a piece of string doesn't change if you curl it into a circle. What I have in front of me are 3 pieces of string. One is totally curled, one is slightly curled, and one of the pieces is straight. Now this is to demonstrate to a child that although they are curled differently, it is exactly of the same length. So this is an activity that I should do in my class to show conservation. So all 3 of the strings are of exactly the same size. It is just curled differently. Another activity that I can do is I take a glass of water, and this glass is filled up to here, as you can see. Now this is to demonstrate to a child that it doesn't matter. The amount of water does not change because I have thrown it into a different container. Because the jug is more wider than the glass, it seems for the child that there is less water in the jug than in the glass. So I do this activity to show to the child that the amount of water still stays the same. I can also do that activity about conservation with a piece of dough, clay, like we call it clay. So this clay, as it is now, the mass of this clay will exactly stay the same if I make it in a sausage, so that the child can see that it doesn't matter about the shape, the mass of the clay stays the same. So these are the activities that I can do when it comes to conservation. Right, non-standard and standard measurement of length. Now, the terms non-standard and standard is often used when we describe learning outcomes for measurement. Now, measuring with standard units is when we measure in millimeters, centimeters, kilometers, and when we do these measurements, we use instruments like rulers, measuring tape, the speedometer in a car. So these standard units of measurement, we use instruments. But when it comes to non-standard units of measurement, we do these measurements with whatever we have in hand. If I have to measure the length of this piece of paper, I can use different pens in my class, and the child can say this paper is 3 pens, or in this case 3 cookies long. I can also use my hand. The child can use his hand and say this paper is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands long. So these are non-standard units of measurement, where the child uses whatever the child has in front of him. When it comes to sorting, classification of objects into 4 groups. Now here we are going to classify different objects according to color, according to size, shape, and length. Now here there are many games that we can play. Now, most of us are familiar with a memory game where we have different cards and only two of the cards look the same. We put them face down, and as the child turns the cards, the child should remember where the previous one that looks exactly the same was placed. So this is the memory game. So here we do this game to help our child with sorting. Now, classifying or sorting involves finding things that are the same or are alike. And we group these things according to their specific classifications. So if we look at animals, if we take groups of animals, and the child needs to identify which ones are domesticated animals, like the dog and the cat, and which ones are wild animals, like the elephant and the lion. So here we can group our animals, and nice activities to do here is when we use blocks. So I have different blocks here, or rather different colors. What I have done, I have collected bottle caps with different colors. I've colored my egg box with different colors. So now I want my child to sort these into different colors. By using this box, my child will immediately put the color where it belongs. So I use normal bottle caps that I've collected, and I've asked my children to sort this bottle caps according to the colors that they see on this egg box. So this is sorting or classifying according to color. I can also classify according to shape. This is a circle. This is also a circle. This is also a circular shape. This is also a circular shape. Now, the color doesn't matter. The color can be different, but now the child sort this according to the shape. So first we sorted according to color. Then we sorted according to shape, and we can also sort according to size. So I bring all the shapes with the same size, I put together, so I can have different shapes of different sizes, and I ask the child to classify or to sort it according to shape. So all these ones are of the same shape. So I can have many objects, as many shapes as I like, and I will ask my child to classify or to sort them according to shape. So they will put those ones together, they will put those ones together, they will put all these together. So now the child have sorted all my shapes according to all my objects according to shape. According to length, I can again use my pencils in my class so the learners can compare, because here they must compare their pencils and find who of those pencils, or who has the pencils of the same length. So these are all the activities that I can do in my class that has to do with sorting and classifying according to color, size, shape, and length. What is rote counting? Rote counting is reciting the sequence of number names. So from very small age of 2 to 3 years old, the child knows how to count from 1 to 10. But the child does not know how many 3 objects are yet. He just knows 1, 2, 3. So this is rote counting, where they just recite without knowing the value of the number. Now the next one, rational counting. Now the child needs to know how many he needs to know that this is 1, these are 2, these are 3. So now the child, I must now take real objects so that the child can know 1 object. Those are 2 objects, 3 objects, 4. The child needs to do one-on-one correspondence with real objects. The child needs to touch each object so that he knows how many. So rote counting comes first, where the child only recite the numbers, and then after that, using real objects, the child now does rational counting. Activities to practice counting. Now, we all know that there are many nursery rhymes that has to do with counting. On the screen there, I put something, 2 little dicky birds. And if I teach my child these nursery rhymes, 2 little dicky birds who fly away and all the nursery rhymes so that they know how to count. These are all activities that I can do to help my child to learn how to count. I can also ask my child, after they have done something, all these activities that we have done here, when we pack it away, when we put it back, I ask my child to count as he packs his toys away, or as he packs whatever he has used away, he counts. So we count aloud in the class as they pack each of these objects. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I count with my child so that I can help them to understand the numbers. I can also sing rhyming number songs, and we can YouTube. There are many of these online. You can also use your hands when you count so that the learner can see how many fingers. So 1, aloud in my class, 1, 2, 3, 4. All these things I should do practical for my child to see. The child must see how I do it so that they know, so that they can grasp these concepts of numbers. I facilitate activities that includes numbers. They can use a dry eraser board or a sidewalk chalk or anything that they can get their hands to draw. Now, here I have a clean piece of paper, and I am going to draw a circle. And inside the circle, I am going to draw some dots. And I'm going to number my dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I help my child to connect these dots, starting from 1, going to the next one. So the child should know 1, this is number 2. From number 2, I should draw a line to number 3, to number 4, to number 5. So this helps the child with identifying the numbers also. What is classification skills? Classification skills is teaching young children how to match, to classify and to measure. And this is an important part of developing early math skills. If I do not put stress on these skills that I've mentioned earlier, to classify and to compare, then my child will later on in math, my child will have problems. So classification skills are very important for my child later on in math. If activities involving observation and classification have been overlooked simply because we don't see the importance thereof, we may find ourselves filling in gaps with older children who are having difficulty moving from simple recall and summarization to interpretation of information. So all these skills at an early age is very important. So spending time on these activities when children are young and eager to learn can pay off later by increasing their ability to make connections in order to draw logic conclusions and make predictions. So there we see why classification skills are important in mathematics. What is number sense? Or why is number sense important? Number sense has to do with quantification, meaning the knowledge of how many. Like we did earlier, the knowledge of how many. So if I say to my child, bring me 4 stones or 4 counters, then I should expect from my child to bring 4 counters. That is why number sense is so important. Then number identification. Number identification, meaning naming numbers. So if I give the child this and then ask my child to look at the number and bring me the same number of objects. In my hand I have counters, or I can even use bottle caps, and I ask for my child to bring the same number that the child see. My child should be able to bring 5 objects, because now after I have done a lot of practical work, my child should be able to know that this symbol represents 5 and 5 represents 5 objects. Counting, also number sense still. Counting with one-on-one correspondence. Each number corresponds to one specific quantity. So this is just 1. These are 2. These are 3. So my child should know. That is why number sense is important for my child. Also, when it comes to composing numbers, when it comes to addition, I will start small and I will ask my child to bring me 2 objects and bring me another 3 objects. This is how I do composing or addition during early childhood. So 2 and bring me 3 more, and now the child counts how many objects he has, and the child should be able to tell me that he has now 5 objects. This is composing numbers. Decomposing or subtraction, like we know it, exactly the same. I give the child 5 objects and I ask the child to take 2 away. I am decomposing the numbers now, I am subtracting, and the child should be able to tell me that there are only 3 that's remaining. So we also do these things very practical. How to teach children color. When you show something, say it is a red balloon, or it is a green block, or it is a orange block, or whatever, say the word. Say this is a red pentagon if you want to. This is a red pentagon or red shape. So whenever, don't just say bring me that block. Say the color. The child needs to hear this color every moment. So instead of saying this is red, it is better to say this is a balloon and its color is red. How we can instill these colors? When you are teaching children about different colors, remember that receptive language comes before expressive language. What am I saying? Children will be able to point out the right color long before they can say its name. So I can ask the child to bring me the same color that they see here, and they should be able to bring the objects in the class that has the same color. But if I keep on telling the child this is red and bring me a red bottle cap and bring me some red counters, then the child will remember the color red. So whenever I teach a color, I should keep with this color and keep on saying the name of the color. So Sometimes in schools, we can have children dressing up for the whole week with red. So they wear red t-shirts, red, whatever they have, so that now we have a red week. So now they will know, when my week is done, they will now know the color, they will know the color, and they will also know that the color is red, because I have practiced a lot of, during the week, I've practiced a lot with them, saying the color red and showing them the color red. So there, get the children to dress in red clothes, use red plates and cups, and let the children cut out red paper. So everything for this week we are going to do is red. Skill of seriation. Seriation can be defined as the ability to arrange objects in order by size. So again, I'm taking the same object and I ask my children to now arrange them from the smallest to the biggest. So they will arrange my objects from the smallest to, or rather from the biggest to the smallest, or vice versa, from the smallest to the biggest. So they have the same shape, they are just now ordered from the smallest to the biggest. So seriation in mathematical concept involves the organization or ordering things in a logical way, arranging objects in order by size, location, or position. So seriation becomes more natural as children enter early childhood education centers or schools. The development of seriation skills is a step-by-step process. As children grow and develop, their ability to seriate will also develop. So if I practice this from small to big, and later on in life, the child won't have a problem with seriation. How do I teach patterns to my early childhood learners? I start off by telling the children to look at what you are wearing. Some might be wearing stripes or dots. And now I will bring one child to the front of the class that maybe has stripes on, and now all the children will now say yellow, blue, red, or red, yellow, or blue, yellow, or the children will repeat as I say, because now we are looking for patterns. Also, they can make a pattern with toys. We love to make patterns with Legos. Now, these that I've brought along are Legos. So I can ask my child, they like to play with these things, so I can ask my child to make a pattern with Legos. Blue, green, red, yellow, blue, green, red, and yellow, and so we will go on. So now the child are doing patterns without even realizing that they are now doing patterns. So we use Lego blocks to teach patterns. Also, another way to teach patterns is if we ask the child to do some things in class. Like I have here, they jump and then they step, and then they jump and then they step. Is also a way of how I can teach them how to do patterns. Right, when I introduce triangles, for instance, the properties of triangles, first of all, I show a triangle to my learner. I show them, this is how a triangle looks, and they must see that it has 3 sides. Without even mentioning the sides to these learners, they have to see or look at an example of a triangle. So now that if they have the concept of triangles, I will ask them to look around in the class for anything that they see that have the same shape. Or even if they go home, there are some things on their way home that they can identify as triangles. On my screen, you can see there's a pizza that they might identify, a piece of pizza that they might identify as triangular shape, or a road sign that they might identify as a triangular shape. So picture books are a great way of introducing concepts to preschool learners. If you are teaching shapes, books offer a wonderful way to show what a triangle is for early childhood learners. So before reading, draw a picture of a triangle, or like I showed you now, have a real example, on a whiteboard, or show a large triangle shape and discuss the properties of the shape. Like I said, it has 3 sides. You can discuss the number of sides it has, the number of angles that we find, and now we know that these are all resembling triangles. Then use one or more of the following books to reinforce the concept of what a triangle for preschool children in our classroom is, and then we can show them a variety of examples of the shape, and like I said, they can go find some as they go home and come back tomorrow and explain to us the triangles that they have found on their way from school. Right. Teaching numbers using the concrete, pictorial, and abstract approach, and we call this the CPA approach. Concrete, meaning the real object, pictorial, pictures, and abstract, when the child now identify what the symbol looks like. So from what we have there is the concrete. I can bring 5 apples to my class. Concrete, the real objects, 5 apples in my class. Pictorial, I now bring a picture of 5 apples, or I can have a picture of 5 dots. Pictorial pictures. And then abstract is when I have the number 5, or I write the number 5, the symbol. Now it becomes more abstract. So it's concrete, which is the real objects, abstract, which is concrete, which is the real object, pictorial, which is a picture, and then abstract, which is the symbol. And if we read through there quickly, model counting concrete and real objects such as apples, blocks, cubes, boxes, buttons, toys, and fingers. So anything that is concrete, any real object. Pictorial, model counting objects representing concrete objects in pictures after the children have mastered and understand the concrete, the real ones. They have counted the real apples. The last one is the abstract. Use symbols such as numerals to represent the picture of objects or the number of dots. Why is it important for a child to be able to identify shapes? This simply improves communication. Meaning, when I ask the child, explain to me a specific picture, the child should be able to say that is the stop sign is a red circle or whatever shape. This improves communication. The child expresses himself better when he knows shapes. It is also great when they, in creative skills, when they start doing things, when they start doing poems or write short stories or short paragraphs, then in a later age, and then they can be more descriptive when they know how to identify shapes. Also be able in mathematics to sort objects. Also it is important when they do pre-reading and writing skills, when they write things for us, like I already said, maybe some poems or some short paragraph. When they draw or when they paste things for us, when they have when they know shapes. Here I have asked them, my learners, to take different shapes and to make a face. So they took different shapes and they have made a nice face out of different shapes. So knowing shapes helped my child with drawing skills. Letters. Letters contains shapes. So sometimes when we teach our learners in pre-primary to make the letter A, we will say almost make a circle and then draw a line. So this can help my child when they do letters. So when they know shapes, it's also good for them when they start with writing. And then obviously shapes has to do with geometry. So when they come to school, when they start school, when they do geometry, they just has a big advantage if they already know how to identify shapes. The abilities that involves hand-eye coordination during this preschool period, the time that our children are in now. During the preschool period, hand-eye coordination progresses to the point of near independence, meaning the child does not need so much help anymore. A 4-year-old is learning to handle eating utensils. He knows how to use a spoon, maybe a fork and a knife, and he can even button his own shirt. 4-year-olds can also be able to handle a pencil. He should know how to hold a pencil. This all has to do with hand-eye coordination. They can copy geometric shapes. So if you give the child a shape and ask the child to redraw a square or a triangle, this all has to do with the ability that the child has that involves hand-eye coordination. By the age of 5, a child's hand-eye coordination appears quite advanced, although it will continue to be fine-tuned for several more years. He approaches and grasps and releases objects with precision and accuracy. When we throw a ball, when the child is still small, we take a bigger ball and we ask the child to catch the ball and to throw the ball back. As the child grows older, the ball should become smaller for the child to catch. This is how I also help my child with hand-eye coordination. He may use the same small toys as preschoolers, but he manipulates them with greater skill and purpose and can complete a familiar jigsaw puzzle, a bigger jigsaw puzzle with lightning speed. So the bigger the child becomes, the more accurate the child becomes if his hand-eye coordination is developed properly. An important milestone in hand-eye progress at this stage is the child's ability to tie his own shoelaces. If you have small children around, you know how happy they are when they can tie their own shoelaces. This all has to do with hand-eye coordination. Why is sequencing important in life? Sequencing is understanding how a series of objects, events, and time occur in a specific and logical order. Like I showed earlier, when they know how to arrange from bigger to smaller, this is also sequence. And if they can master from smaller to bigger, if they can master this, it becomes easier for them to do sequencing. This is very important. This is a very important concept for preschool children to develop, as this allows children to recognize patterns that make the world more understandable and predictable. However, it is also a very abstract concept and takes a lot of practice to master. And if you look at the picture that I have there, the sequence. I have 10, 20, and there are 3 missing, and then it's 60. Now I challenge my child to use 3 of those numbers to complete the sequence. This is how I practice sequencing. Right, sorting rough and smooth objects. And how do I practice that? How do I do that practical? This is done practically in my class. Like in the picture there, I have a box that I call my Rockstone Discovery box. In my box, I place some rocks or some stones with different surfaces. Some are rough and some are smooth. So this is also done very practically. Firstly, the teacher would encourage the learner by showing them the rock collection. First, I show the rock collection to them. And then I ask them to tell me what they notice about these rocks. Now they must start describing what they see first. Now this will encourage them to have a simple conversation and gain their interest about the box, the rock discovery box. So they will start by saying the different colors maybe, because now they only see different colors, maybe different shapes, maybe different sizes. Then I would let them now sort them according to smooth or rough. So first they describe the rocks to me, what they see. Then they should start feeling. And now according to what they feel, either smooth or rough, now they separate these rocks for me. So then I would let the learner sort the rocks according to whether they are smooth or rough. Here I would introduce the word texture. So when I talk about smooth and rough, I also talk about texture. This is how the rock feels. So texture is something that I feel with my hands. Learners can experiment and talk about why they feel each rock is a certain texture. So why is sorting rough and smooth objects important? Because here they must feel. So, and we talk about texture. What is one-on-one correspondence? Why is it important? This is to demonstrate when a child relates the counting of specific individual items. Like we said, when the child counts items one by one, it counts, this is 1, 2, so they feel it. The child must feel the object. 1, these are 2 objects, 3, 4, 5. So one-on-one correspondence is important because touching each item only once as the child recites the counting sequence illustrates this concept. So he touches and he counts over and over. As toddlers have experiences with authentic hands-on learning and with counting and sharing, they begin to develop the concept of one-to-one correspondence. They feel, they touch, they say. When distributing a snack, for example, toddlers can give each child 1 mini muffin or a sweet in our classes, or even a stone, or 1 orange. In this way, they are learning to relate to the notation of 1 person and 1 object. So I can give each one in the class, even in groups, a few objects and ask them to give each learner 1, so that they can get that one-on-one correspondence per each person. The importance of spatial vocabulary in mathematics. Knowledge of object, categorize, and attributes allow children to mentally and physically organize things in their world. So the child knows that this is on top or at the bottom or to the right or to the left. This mentally tells my child When I send my child, go fetch the glass on the table, or go get the shoe under the bed, so that the child knows where the child should go look for an object. Spatial awareness and spatial relationship allow children to locate objects and navigate successfully in their environment. So they will go find the object according to what I tell them, or they can tell me that my lunchbox is behind my school bag or inside my school bag. So the child is now able to correspond better. That is why spatial vocabulary is important. Using spatial language enables children to express their needs and concerns, like, oh no, mama, Teddy's under the bed. So he has lost maybe his teddy bear, and now he wants his mother to help him to find his teddy bear. And they also describe and discuss the world around them. So spatial vocabulary for the little child is important for them to communicate to us. What activities can I do for spatial relationships terms of inside and outside? The activities that I can do is playing Simon Says. Now here, with masking tape or sellotape or coloring sellotape, I can make a big circle on my floor in my classroom. I begin by standing inside the circle, and I will tell the children that now I am inside the circle. Then I step outside, and then I communicate with my child that I am now outside, and I do this for a few times. After that, I will let them stand in a circle or one at a time, and then I will say things like, Simon says, jump inside the circle, and now I expect the children to jump inside the circle. Or Simon says, jump outside the circle. So here I practice inside and outside. Right, lastly, teaching the meaning of hot and cold. Children know if something is hot or cold by their experience. From an early age, they are told not to touch a hot stove, and when it's cold, to wear a jersey or a coat. This understanding of temperature is a good starting point to teach the difference in temperature. So they know when their mother says, put on a jersey, it's cold, or not to touch the stove because it's hot. Here the child can relate already with the meaning of hot and cold. We discuss home safety when it comes to hot temperatures. Discuss things that are dangerous. So they need to give you items that they think at home that is dangerous to touch. And they will go with the stove or the heater, because from very small they are told not to touch because it's hot. So now they can relate with the meaning of hot. Talk about how many food items are baked at high temperatures, such as cakes or pies. So they should be able to tell you that when my mother bakes a cake, the oven is hot, and they can give us a few examples of what their parents cook at home that is baked at a very high temperature. You can show the learner a picture of a fire in a fireplace, because now they already know that when we have a fire, and usually when it's drawn red, then they know it is dangerous. So now they know fire and red and hot almost relates. Next, show the learners a picture of an ice cube, or bring the ice cubes to class if it's possible. If you have a freezer at school, show them that this is ice. What do we know about the ice? And they can feel it. You can let them feel it. And now we know that the ice will be very cold. And when it melts, we can show them in front of them that the ice melts, and now the ice becomes water. Put the two pictures of the ice and the water next to each other, and now we tell them that they are exactly the same. It's just the one is in liquid form and the one is in a solid form, so that they can relate that ice and water is exactly the same, and also know that ice is colder than water and that fire is hot. I thank you. Good luck. You got this. Thank you.